All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome for week 23 of Storm King's Thunder, the Crystal Crusaders. I am your DM, Brad. As always, joined by my lovely players. All of them are here today, somewhat on
Oh man.
time. So, uh, we are going to just basically hop right into things here. But first, we are going to have a bit of a recap of what has happened recently, given by none other than Thor playing Elquil Redmoon. So, Thor, if you would please tell us what has happened previously on the Crystal Crusaders.
Yes. Last time on the Crystal Crusaders Storm King's Thunder adventure, I came to with having Cecil standing over me. I've felt bound and taking in the situation. I was being held by these statues that we had been fighting just moments before. Cecil having Cecil apparently having resuscitated me by the use of a potion of healing. Lucas.
What the fuck?
Yes, it was Lucas. Oh man, in my haste of almost having died, I think I hallucinated.
Same, but different.
I hallucinated my old friend Cecil. Perhaps he was there to greet me on the edge of death. But no, it was Lucas. Now that I look closer, he was standing over me. Cecil
Zach is not happy.
Lucas helped me out of from the statue, and I saw that he had also helped Alexei up. Greknar was gone, according to Lucas. Greknar had been killed, eaten by one of the giants. We freed Nibby and Alexei and Breork, though it tired me out in my current state. Before Lucas and Alexei was able to make us all invisible, and we fled. However, as it turned out, Nibby was already dead. Not wanting the sacrifices of two of our friends to be in vain, we headed deeper into the castle to find the rods that we had been seeking. We came across the trophy room that Lucas had been mentioning earlier. And but on our way there, we also met a new friend, a safety net, as he himself described himself as, a Sirak Thunderbird, who had been sent by the Harpers to watch over us because the Harpers didn't trust us.
Completely.
And he had a large battering ram on his shoulder. I don't know how he was sneaking around with one, but he had. We came across the door to the trophy. Lucas manages to become the lockpick the door, and we made it inside. However, after looking around the trophy room, it turned out the rod was not there, because this was apparently not where they kept their things like that. It was more of, physical trophies, like a hunting room. Shame. So we started searching the rest of the castle, sneaking around still. Eventually coming across a large tower, and a tower inside of the tower reception. Inside of the smaller tower, inside the tower, there was a vault. However, guarding the vault was a golem, which activated the moment we approached it, despite our invisible circumstances. We began fighting the golem. It almost knocked the light out of me, but I got enlarged by Alexei's magic and then healed by Sirak. So we were able to occupy it until we had destroyed the golem. Excellent. Then we broke into the vault, sounding the alarm throughout the entire castle. Stole the rod that we were here to retrieve, while Sirak and Lucas began looting all other kinds of things inside of that vault. And then we fled the castle after a daring escape. Very daring and very, very on the edge. We were very close to failing that that escape being caught once more. We were able to light the rod of greater eagle summoning, and the eagles came and picked us up, and we flew off into the mountains, where we now rest.
Yes, indeed. So, you can go ahead and mark your point of inspiration, my friend, and we will pick up where we left off. Now, you guys had, yes, narrowly escaped from the cloud giant castle in the sky, high above the mountains, descending down through the ever brewing storm that raged around it, to the to the the mountains and foothills down below, and found like a cave to kind of like set the eagles down and kind of like hide out in for some time. You guys kind of like sit there for about an hour or so, just kind of like resting up. It's still pretty early in the morning, so it's too early to basically just like call it for an entire day, and perhaps there's some sort of paranoia about these giants figuring out where the fuck you are. So you guys sit down for like an hour's short rest, and then once again mount the eagles and take off, presumably returning to Everland.
Yes. We got a long rest then?
Short.
Short rest.
Sure.
It's still way too early in the morning for a long rest. Unless
Okay.
you wanted to hang out all day in the mountains.
No.
Like an hour away from where the giants you robbed are. No. So, yeah, you guys once more take to the skies on the eagles. And if I remember correctly, yes. It is going to take you slightly more than a day to get back to Everland. So, you travel for the whole day, through the skies, and you can see the storm kind of behind you that signals where the cloud giant castle was, growing further and further away, and eventually it disappears beyond the horizon. And the end of the day comes, and you guys find some place to like set down in the foothills at the base of the mountain, and I suppose set up like a rudimentary camp here,
Yep.
stoking a fire, and begin to drift off into sleep, setting up your watches and whatnot. I guess do we set up a watch order before? I might have a handout here that has that. Don't think so. All right. Well, who is going to take the first watch then?
I can, because I'm like the least exhausted one, so everyone can get a power nap in the beginning.
All right. So if you would please make a perception check for me.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice. So you keep vigil here, taking this whole like watch very seriously. Having been somebody who was kind of like sent to keep an eye on things, is definitely like, you're honed in and laser focused on what you have to do. There are no threats that approach the camp during your portion of the watch. However, you do notice that the ambient temperature around the camp sort of seems to be slowly dropping as the night drags on. You can see kind of like almost like frost beginning to form on the ground nearby, unseasonably so, given that it's still pretty much like the end of summer at this point in time. So it's probably not. It usually doesn't start getting this cold until in autumn, in later in the year.
Yeah.
But it's not a dramatic enough shift to be just like suddenly like, oh shit, now it's like freezing. It's just like you slowly begin to kind of like notice as the night drags on, and probably you begin to see the frost forming as your 2-hour watch or whatever ends.
Yeah.
Wait, what time of year is it?
It's like kind of like late in the summer.
Okay.
But obviously this is so far north that even like late summer, it's still kind of uh, getting like a little cooler.
Yeah.
Oh, then I will wake up the next one, whoever that is.
It would be me. I'm at full health.
Yep. So Lucas, you awaken for your watch, and again, as he like wakes you up, and you kind of like pull yourself out of your bedroll. Yeah, it's kind of like a little chilly tonight, but nothing too crazy.
I explained like keep watching on the temperature because it seems kind of. I don't know this place, but it seems kind of naturally cold here. I kind of tell him before I tuck myself in. And I tell him I have no idea what it might be, but
All right. Can you go ahead and make a perception check for me? Okay. So you begin to kind of like keep an eye out, having been notified of this like temperature thing. You don't really notice anything particularly significant changing as you're keeping watch. Everything seems quiet. You only hear the occasional sounds of the sort of endemic wildlife around you. The occasional like howl of a wolf in the distance, or kind of like small creatures scattering around in the bushes and shrubs. And yeah, your watch passes pretty much uneventfully after the couple of hours. And you go to wake up the next person, who is...
Any volunteers?
Maybe.
yeah, I was gonna say
Just,
wake
just,
me as
just
well.
pop him up.
Did you
with his eyes open.
New York, Alexei, and Alquill?
Just pull him out of the bag, set him up, but it's like
Yeah,
you keep
so-
watching on me.
Who is it gonna be, Alexei or
Alquill.
Alquill? Okay.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, you go to wake up Alquill, and as you do, I think you like place a hand on his shoulder just to begin like shaking him awake. And it feels almost as though you have like touched like a metal pole in the middle of winter. There's this just sudden freezing cold sensation as you kind of like shake him awake. And
I
you pull-
immediately check to see if he's
and you
dead.
pull your hand back. He seems to be breathing, but his temperature is abnormally low.
I guess I'll shout out at our resident cleric.
I come like
So Alquill, you like wake up to this like shouting or whatever being like pushed.
I roll over, going like, huh, what?
I like blink over at like Lucas is like,
You kind of,
Lucas, what?
As you
It's
wake
my
up,
turn.
yeah, as you wake up, you kind of vaguely remember, you were sort of having this this dream in the night. It's very fuzzy, and obviously you were suddenly woken up in the middle of it, so you can't remember much of the details. You remember this sort of like, you see and relive scenes of your battle against the Ice Witch in the north, kind of like the frost and the cold that she was slinging around, and sort of as that passed, you began to see scenes of this sort of strangely familiar looking woman, although you had never like seen her before, and you felt this sensation of like chasing after her, blizzards kind of like pushing you away, and welling up inside of you. And it was kind of like this mix. It was almost like a half dream, half nightmare, and you're not exactly sure what was going on, but it was definitely this very like surreal kind of feeling dream.
Yes, I'll groan a little bit as like I'm still groggy and exhausted. And I look a bit like Lucas, it's is it my turn to take a watch?
What the fuck
Uh,
is your character's name again? Xeric? Yeah. Xeric,
Xeric.
something's wrong with Alquill.
Yeah, I instantly just roll over. I grab on him and I put like spare the dying, like let's see if we can find some life in him.
I'm
He's
I'm
talking.
This is
Like completely groggy state. I kind of look over at Lucas and I look down at him and I go like, Nothing's fucking wrong with him.
I'm sure when you touched him for your spare,
Yeah. I'm still
feel it.
tired. I'm still tired, and I go like, "You're fucking cold, aren't? What the?"
I was just like, what? No, I don't feel cold.
I
Quite warm.
kind of like grab a hold of him and just check if he's okay.
Yeah, I mean, like he seems to be like his breathing is fine. Like he's obviously talking. Like his eyes are tracking after you. It's just like his skin temperature, his physical like body temperature, is just like so freezing cold as compared to what you would expect from like a normal living, breathing human.
Can I just do like a quick checkup, basically? Just look him over.
Yeah, I mean that's
Just
what you get. Like
yeah, okay.
he's normal. But yeah, like as he's kind of like sitting here talking, and even as he's like breathing, you notice his like breath kind of like frosting in the air as if it was cold, even though it's not.
Yeah, I don't go like nothing's should be wrong with you, but you're freezing.
I don't feel cold, I say.
No, you are. Trust me.
It's like, though your hands are very warm.
Alexei's just sleeping, none the wiser to what's going on right now.
Like, was it always this light outside? It's just like, fuck, how long did I sleep? I blink a few times.
The sun is really red now.
About 4 hours.
It's the middle of the, well,
Yeah,
no,
it's pretty. It's like pretty.
it's the middle of the
early in
night.
morning.
Or
This is-
oh, is it still early in the morning?
Well, yeah, because it's been 4 hours. You guys probably went to bed at like 10, so it's probably like 2 or 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's like middle of the night. Alquill.
this is like, I blink a few times and look at him and it's like, what? And I like blink, like take in surroundings, like, oh, that it is. Strange. I
Alquill's broken.
what?
Alquill's broken. That's what he said.
I thought it just seemed very much easier to
Seemed
see.
Yeah.
Alquill has dark vision now.
Just
I
right.
kinda-
Well, I'm fine. I say. I don't know what the fuss is about.
I
but
look
feel
for it
fine.
Alquil like I'm gonna go back to bed, but if something's really wrong, you wake me up again, okay?
This is like, of course.
I kind of just tuck and roll back.
All right. So yeah, you guys eventually kind of having discerned that it's weird, but nothing seems to be wrong with him. The two of you head back to sleep while Alquil sets up to take his watch. Go ahead and make a perception check for me.
Yes. Disadvantage and perception.
All right. So Alquil is definitely like a bit kind of thrown off by this whole situation. Obviously, having
Also
like
exhausted.
with this strange ability to like see in the dark, and I think even with that like low perception score, you begin like noticing like kind of like frost beginning to build wherever you're like standing, and you kind of like vaguely recall this dream, like chasing after this woman amidst a blizzard and fighting against the ice witch in the north.
And
and
seeing the face of Cecil at some point.
um, and kind of like all these like different dreams and feelings like mixed together. You almost feel like this kind of like storm raging inside of you, like begging to be let free. This strange new sensation you've never felt before. You kind of like shove it down, kind of like think to your like training and everything you've been through this far. And yeah, your watch passes relatively uneventfully. And it goes time to wake up the final player character here, Alexei.
Yes. So I'll walk over and,
Yeah. So, Alexei, as you are woken up, you just, I guess, you wake up, you feel this incredibly cold, like shock on the back of your shoulder, all of a sudden, Alexei, as you are just like shocked out of your dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Alexei,
like,
like,
it's like somebody
startles.
took a bunch of ice cubes and basically just like ran them down your back.
Alexei like startles. Sits up. Alquil, that is not funny. And then she'll
That's
like
just
stand up. I'm going
yeah.
on watch now, then. Ah.
I didn't even get the time to tell that I was just checking you awake. Well, good. Yes, it's your turn to watch.
Thank you. Try and warm your hands up next time, please. It was very unpleasant.
I don't know. I feel fine. Lucas
Yeah.
said the same thing that I'm cold.
Go sit by the fire.
Even the cleric said you're fucking cold.
Yeah, even the cleric said I was fucking cold.
We
That's
all
fine.
ignored it though, as we do.
It's just
As
it's like
you-
I feel fine. I'm just tired. Is all. Says,
Alright.
just
So,
keep an eye out for the weather, and then I'll go back to my sleep.
yeah. So, Alexei, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and make me a perception check. With disadvantage.
Haha, I'm good at these.
You'll
Let's
do better than
see.
me.
Wonderful.
Barely.
Barely. All right, so yeah, Alexei, as is typical, spends her watch just like face shoved into a book, not paying attention to anything going on around her.
I have
Uh,
ears, don't I?
Just kind of like reading. Yeah, that's of course. That's enough. Yeah. So you just kind of like spend the hours poring over the tomes, and nothing really too terribly interesting seems to strike your fancy or deign drift your attention away from the passages in this tome. Lucas, as you
Oh,
are
yes. What?
as you are sleeping that night, you sort of like begin experiencing kind of like these whatever like the things that normally you dream of, piles of money and all sorts of things like falling into your lap, whatever it is.
The nightmare
Money.
of my edgy childhood.
Nightmare of his edgy childhood. When
And money.
you suddenly find yourself cast into sort of like complete darkness, and your surroundings almost in the dream seem to shift very suddenly, and you hear this kind of like deep bellowing voice like echoing forth from somewhere in the darkness, and it says, I said, "The tribute is overdue, Lucas."
We just kind of got out of a rough situation. I'm sure you've noticed, I got a nice gem for you.
Said, "Then why are you wasting time? Hurry up and send it already."
Very well.
And he says, he says, "Is that all you've obtained?" It has been quite some time since you last paid tribute.
Being called out.
Mhm. I've obtained much, yes. More than just the gem.
So where is it?
Who's playing the dragon here?
What the fuck, man?
Yeah, so it's like playing coy with me, Lucas. Interesting. Well, you can keep your secrets to yourself, I suppose. The gem will do for now. Yeah, and so like you begin to see kind of like this large draconic eye kind of like forming in the darkness up ahead. And he says, "Send it to me in the morning." He says,
I kind of like bow my head and like kind of like acknowledgement. It's like, very well, I will.
He says, and one more thing before I send you back. He says,
Oh, Quill did it.
I said,
I believe it.
you have done well in your efforts to deal with these pathetic creatures, our hated enemy. Says, never let it be said that I do not give unto you in return for what you give to me, Lucas. And you see this like clawed hand kind of like reaching out towards you, and it grabs you up and like lifts you into the air. And you see like this kind of you see this kind of like, you know, toothed maw kind of like opening in front of you, and this breath of kind of like hot, like sticky air begins to like wash over you. And suddenly, like, rather than feeling like pain, though, having been like blasted by this sudden like breath attack, you feel it almost kind of like infusing within you and building and increasing your strength. And after like a few moments of this, the dragon just like drops you. You kind of like fall to the ground. It doesn't hurt or anything. You just kind of like fall to the ground. And as soon as you do fall to the ground, you just sort of like like startle awake.
Okay.
And at this point in time, it's like basically right as everyone was about to wake up at this point in time. So early in the morning, you can see the sun kind of like cresting over the hill. Hear the like morning crickets and all that.
As promised, I am awake. It is time to pay tribute.
So, do the rest of us wake up now?
He wakes up a bit before everybody else, but yeah,
Okay.
you're all waking up soon.
So we
I'm
get the
gonna,
full
like-
long rest?
Yep.
Okay. then
I'm
just
assuming I still
log-
get it as well. I mean, I don't need it. I don't get anything back on a long rest.
Well,
Long
you get your-
rest.
You get,
HP.
you get your
Oh,
new
yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah, true.
You know all that HP and shit that you like.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah,
I
you
get to
are
prepare
all now
another
like
spell.
officially leveled up at this point.
Yay! Everyone, give yourself a pat on the back. We've leveled up.
Woohoo! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I now have Dimension Door.
Did you just theme my level up? Because that was kind of cool.
What?
He just themed a level up. That was kind of cool.
But the Dimension Door level up.
I was
So
talking
I
the whole thing with the dragon. Yeah, I'm gonna go off on my own, Brad, and find a little place of my own before we go, and like, you know, do the tribute.
Yeah, so you pull the bandana back with the eye, draw out this kind of like diagram as you have done many times before, placing the gem in there, and after like a few moments you like say, murmur like a quick few words, and the gem just whoop, vanishes.
Mhm.
gonna change into my plate mail. Um.
Yeah. Yeah, so you all do that. Alexei is kind of like transcribing her spells for the morning, and I think like this sort of like sudden epiphany like hits you, and you remember lessons from before. You begin like jotting down these new kind of like interesting formulas and stuff that you've remembered, and kind of like expanded your knowledge here with all your training. And of course, like Xeric, as you're kind of like praying that morning for your spells to the light of the dawn, you can kind of feel everything around you, the wind kind of like blowing against you, the sounds of all the creatures, all the life around you, and you almost feel as though your spirit is kind of like becoming one with like the life force of everything around you as you're praying for your spells, and feel it kind of like welling up within you.
And I'm praying to Quaron Windstrom. Mine.
Yeah, so you guys have finished your long rest, and presumably you would then like to finish the rest of your journey to Everland, only a matter of
Yes.
hours away. So you do so. You once more top astride the eagles, taking off into the sky for the final hour or so of travel before you reach Everland. Descending down now from the Nether Mountains, you can see like up ahead the grand kind of like tower that looms over the city of Everland, and you begin to like descend downwards. Or I believe last time you were basically told to rather than like landing in the town to like land in the woods outside of it where you had originally taken off from, and so you kind of like do so, and as you do, and you like dismount the eagles, they kind of like screech basically, like eagles screech, and take off on their own, presumably heading back to wherever they were called from, and you guys begin to make your way over to the gates of Everland. When you arrive at the gates, there are a couple of sort of like guards standing there who just kind of like give you a once over, ask what your business is, etc., etc. You like spin them a quick story about just passing through, and they let you inside, and you head through to the markets, and as promised, obviously you were told like if you go to the tower, they're not gonna let you in. You have to go the super secret back way, which is to say you return once more to Daniver's house, the sort of like tavern tap room in the town, and once there, you can see that the half half-orc proprietor kind of like greets you, and he says, "Yeah, you've returned already, huh? Well, that was quick. I said half expected you weren't gonna return at all."
Me too.
I love it when people have faith in us, man.
Ah, yes. I was just like, well, some of us didn't. I say.
And he says, that's so. Says, well, my condolences. I've lost a fair few companions in the day myself, so I know what it's like.
Yes. This is unfortunately not the first time either. So, but we have what we went for. Can we see your friends?
He kind of nods and says, of course, I've got something special prepared for you in the back room. Let me show you. And he kind of like looks around. There's like a couple of other people, like hanging around. So he just kind
This is
of
where
like
the ambush
gestures.
comes.
He like gestures into the back room, like behind the bar or whatever.
Ambush.
It's like the 50
Alright,
Shades of Grey
This is the
playroom.
point where they double cross us, guys. Get ready.
Yeah, right.
Alright, summon my longbow.
What do we need that for?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Precautions.
you guys move through to the other room. He closes the door behind you, and he says, Crowin has been anxiously awaiting news of your return. Says, and he kind of like gestures to the table where you can see there's like this sort of like this wine bottle has been like set up, and you see those kind of like shot glasses basically of those whatever the hell it was you drank that brought you here in the first place. And he says, just drink those and you'll end up in his chamber. He's expecting you.
Okay.
Down it.
Alquill doesn't fear any tricks, so he's just gonna walk over and take a shot glass and drink it.
I mean,
He's not paranoid. Forrest, Alquill
Yeah.
isn't.
Can I like determine what this potion may be with like an arcana or something?
I mean, yeah, you can attempt to.
Chug.
Obviously,
15.
it's just like a
Fucking
yeah. So
amazing.
just like taking like a quick look at it. Obviously, like you don't have the tools, like the alembics and stuff necessary to distill it and take a look at its magical properties. So you can't really like. You're not. I mean, you've seen what it does before. Like obviously, you drink it and suddenly you're somewhere else. So obviously, it's some sort of translocation thing, but you have no idea how it actually like works.
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, and you just see Alqua like run up, just down the shot glass, and then vanish, and then the shot glass kind of like clatters to the ground, and they're not like glass, they're like simple like kind of like wood or metal, so they kind of like just like clatters to the table.
Fair enough. Well, guess I'll just drink it.
All right, Alexei walks up, downs the shot glass, and just disappears. Briark just sort of like it's just like, well, what are we waiting for? Just downs the shot. He vanishes.
I'm just sitting there at last, just looking at the glass, going like, huh. Huh.
I mean, you would be familiar with this, having like
Oh, right, yeah.
being a
Fine.
harper. Like you would understand. Like
Yeah.
this is basically like
Yeah.
the Zentarum are always watching the front door, so this is like the way everybody like goes in and out.
I'll just chug it down then.
Why is it always the Zentarum?
Because they're the bad guys.
There's like, merchants, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Lucas, you're the last one left. So
Glug,
I
glug.
assume you drink it down. All right. So you all sort of feel this intense like shifting in reality as you're all just kind of like suddenly shunted from one corner of the multiverse to another corner very close nearby, and you all kind of like
In before-
arrive a little bit disoriented in the kind of like open kind of like lounge room of the Moongleam Tower. And you can see a burning fire is within the hearth. There's a number of sort of sofas and recliners scattered around the room, bookshelves and the likes. And of course, dozens of these sort of like winged cats kind of like flying around. And as soon as you kind of like enter, they all kind of like stop and like turn to like look at you. And you hear like a voice kind of like coming from the other side of a door, and it says, one moment, I'll be right with you. Yeah, you see kind of like stepping through the door, Crowan Valharo, mage of Evergleam Tower, kind of resplendent in his robes, like a winged cat perched on his shoulder. And you see he's basically like, carrying in like a tray of food, which he like sets down and begins like putting out on the floor. And you see all the cats begin like swarm over towards it and begin like kind of like eating. And he like gives this like warm smile as he like turns to the lot of you, and he says, I take it, since you have returned here, your task has been successful. You have the rod.
I like step forward since I don't know. Yeah, we do.
Well, he says, Zurich, the fact that you are in company with these adventurers must mean that something terrible must have happened. And he kind of like turns to you all. He says, my condolences for that.
You may notice that we are two less.
And kind of like looks, and he says, I did indeed notice this. The halfling and the half-orcish fellow.
Or
He says,
Yes, half orc.
The
Eaten
green
by-
skin.
Eaten by a giant gnome, or halfling. I mean, squashed by a giant.
yeah, he sort of like nods and says, my condolences, although such dangers are the lot of you adventurers. He says, it still does not make it any less tragic.
Yes. But yes, we have the rod. Lucas, the rod, please.
Oh, was that the one who had it?
I think so.
Oh yeah, I think
Yeah,
I
Because
did.
you
Was
were
it
wearing the
January?
mask to, yeah.
Yeah.
you and me carried it together.
Yeah. Da 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 da.
Yeah, so you produce this sort of like long adamantine rod with like dragons kind of like carved in profile down around it. And he kind of like looks at it. Obviously he's just like he's too weak. He can't carry it himself, so he's just like set it down there.
I help him. Wait.
Yeah, and you kind of like set it down onto the table, and he begins like looking over it. And he says, yes, this is indeed the rod that was stolen from us. And he says, excellent work. With this, Countess Sansuri will be kept from that dragon magic another day longer.
Who? That name sounds familiar.
What did he say?
And he says, you must forgive me. We are a secretive sort. I have kept you somewhat misinformed on purpose to test your acumen. And he says, this rod in truth was no relic from Silvery Moon. It was discovered in ancient ruins of the great giant kingdom. And he says, we believe it to be a key to a great trove of dragon magic, one which Countess Sansuri seeks desperately to get her hands on.
That name. I've heard it before.
And he says,
What was the name he said?
Countess Sansuri.
he says,
Okay.
I said, well, if you've any encounters with the Cloud Giants, it is likely that you have. She is their leader in these parts, you could say. The one that orders them all around. The strongest amongst them, the most influential, and the most vile and evil.
Damn it, Brad. I want to like lift up my I don't know if I want to look at this with the good eye. Well, I imagine the dragon would have seen this already. I was like, when we found it, I had my thing off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he wanted it that badly, he would have said something, or she would have said something.
Hopefully.
Oh.
And he says,
How dare you give away my fabled treasure?
You
And
know
he
I
says,
had it, damn it! Say something!
He says, I said, you have done well to bring this to us. And he says, we will be able to keep it safe. He says, although I would be a fool to believe that this was the only such key.
The masked ones.
And he says, yes, the Cloud Giants are known for disguising their faces behind masks.
Yes. We met two of them, I say.
He says,
This-
and you live to
after-
tell the
after-
tale. Impressive.
It's just like it was after. I remember it was after we had left Icewind Dale, when we were camping in those giant ruins.
Yes, they, in exchange for them not killing us, we helped them find something.
Yes, it was a carving made by the stone giant. I say.
Yeah, you see, he's kind of like running his fingers through his like long white beard, and he's like, "Is that so? Curious." And he says, "Yes, I believe they have been searching high and low on the beck and call of Countess Sansuri."
Fergus and Felgrin was the name.
Kind of like that. So it says, well, I am sure that whatever it is they told you was quite interesting, but
We
What's the
found
matter?
there was this stone they found, along with this, and I get out the potion of giant size.
yeah, so you pull out this like potion, and he's like, curious. He says, "You mind if I take a look at that? I've never seen
Of
a
course.
potion of that ilk before." And
I
he
give
kinda,
it to him.
takes it, and he like
They
quickly
they said it would be useless to them, so they let us keep it as a reward for helping.
Okay.
Well, the smiling one did. The scowling one wanted to kill us.
kind of like looks over it and picks it up, and you see he like moves his fingers over it, tracing these sigils in the air, and kind of like his eyes begin to like glow. And he says, curious. And he says, an interesting find, highly valuable indeed. Such things have long since been lost to time. And he says, an ancient recipe of the giants. He says, one to make their servants fight as strong as they do. And he said you would do well to keep hold of this. And he kind of like gives it back to you. And he says, you mentioned a stone. You have any idea what it did? Why they were searching for it?
They oh, hang on, let me consult the quest log. Cloud giants. It was a stone spear. It was about the size of our fists. It had like crystalline veins in them. Says, they didn't say what it did, but Felgrin implied it would be useful for Countess Sansuri's plans, and that there were more of them that they were searching for.
Okay, so he's kind of like strokes his beard. He says, "Is that so? Shame that we don't have the orb to study ourselves." He says, "No matter. What
What's the
Countess
key to the
Sansuri seeks is a long and dangerous road. She will likely need many such artifacts. We should not be concerned if they obtain one." And he
I
says,
see.
But I'm sure you don't wish to hear me ramble about such things as this rod. It must be sequestered away. And he kind of like makes a few like gestures with his hand, and you all see this like large kind of like footlocker chest suddenly poof, like appears on the table in front of you, and he says, "Help me place the rod inside."
Of course.
And yeah, so you kind of like help him lift the rod, placing it down in the chest. So you can see the chest is mostly empty. There's some like books and a few kind of like staves that have been like placed inside. You place the rod down inside the chest. He closes the lid, waves his hand over it, muttering some incantations, and it vanishes again. And he says, "Now she will have a hard time getting her hands on this." He says, "I thank you again for your assistance in this matter." And he says, "I apologize for not being forthright with you about our original goals in obtaining this, and I am sorry for the loss of your friends."
Of course. Says, but they did not die in vain. We did succeed on our mission. Now, I believe we should bury the one whose body we could recover, I say.
He says, "Of course, says, this, the one that you recovered, any preferred method of burial known to you? Or would you like him interred within the city graveyard, perhaps? As it is the least that we can do in return for his service."
He was a druid. I'm not sure what kind of religion he served.
Says, "Perhaps best then that the body be entrusted to the Enclave. I'm sure they will know best the druidic ways."
Yes, perhaps. Do you know where we can perhaps find them?
And he says, "I can contact some of my associates and get in touch with them."
All right. Perfect. I believe the body should still be preserved.
Yeah, and you see he turns to like one of the winged cats nearby, and he mutters like a few like spells, kind of like tracing his hand through the air. And the cat just suddenly like its head like tilts up, and it like shoots out like a window.
Well, that's nice.
And he says, "It'll probably take some time, but I will see if they are able to take your friend and deliver him to his final resting place. In the meantime, I believe a reward was promised for your efforts. He kind of like lifts himself up from the chair with some like great deal of effort, and he says,
I help him.
he says, please follow me. I have something to show you.
All right, I will follow.
Yeah, so he leads you once more up the tower, and you see kind of it spirals up and up and up, climbing up these stairs, and eventually you enter into this sort of like windowless room that you first arrived here, basically like this destination room where it's just like empty, save for this like circle that's been drawn out on the floor. And as you enter, you can see there's like a chair, propped in one side, and you can see this kind of like human male, maybe in his like late 20s, early 30s, who's just kind of like he's like propped the chair up on its like back legs, leaning up against the wall, and he's just sort of like his head is down, and he's snoring loudly. And let me see here. As you like enter the room, what is it? Yeah. So as you enter into the room, Crowan shouts, "Revel, wake up!" And he just goes, and like wakes up and like starts forward in the chair. And he says, Master Valharo, you were just slacking off again. What did I do wrong with you? And he just kind of like waves him off, as the man's just like, "Oh, the master," and he says, when you first arrived here in the tower, this is where you were taken. It is a teleportation circle, a destination one. He says, you see the sigils inscribed upon the floor. With that, any enterprising mage would be able to teleport here at will. You can understand then why this is a closely guarded secret that I am about to share with you. And the information that I am about to give you should not reach the ears or eyes of anyone outside of your group. You understand?
Of course, I say.
Yep, of course. Alexei says as she looks over it in great detail.
I look at Alexis like, you understand, correct?
Yep. Yep. That thing you said.
Yeah. So you see he begins like scrawling on a piece of paper, and he says, the Harpers maintain many such circles across the north, a network by which we may travel quickly from settlement to settlement in search of our quests and defeating the evil that holds over this land. And he says, there is one here in Everland, as well as one in Mirabar, Neverwinter, where you came from, Yarter, Loudwater, and of course, one in Waterdeep as well.
Thank God.
And he says, and he hands you a piece of paper, Alexei, and he says, now I have judged you perhaps not quite capable of the magics required to transport to these places on your own as of yet. However, these here, and he kind of like points to the paper, are the sigils for each of the circles. And he says, keep them, memorize them well, and when time comes that perhaps you can cast the spell yourself, you will be able to travel wherever your heart desires. As long as it's one of these 6 circles.
Wherever you want to, as long as it's here.
So what does he
Well-
give me? Is it like a spell, or is it just information on how to use these teleportation
coordinates.
So
circles?
he's like,
I think.
it's basically like a coordinate sheet. I'm trying to like show it to you, but it won't let me.
If you've ever seen Stargate, James.
No, I've not.
Damn it!
Wow. What a turd.
Is that working? Can you see it?
Yes, there we go. Ooh.
Yeah, so it gives you
Interesting.
this,
Okay.
like, diagram.
Fascinating.
That's what she
I've heard
said.
of these
Loud
As long as
water.
it doesn't go to the old homeworld.
As long as we don't go to the fucking what fuck was it called again? Those flesh-eating fuckers.
But yeah, Alexi's like
Uh,
fascinating. I've heard of these magics, but I've never seen them in action.
The replicators.
Yeah. There we go.
And he says, for the time being, however, seeing as you are incapable of translocating yourselves, each of these circles is staffed by one of my apprentices. who will, of course, be more than willing to transport you. Of course, they can only do so once a day, so try not to be too flippant in how often you use these things. I said there are other harpers who have use of the circles, and he says, we can't have you using them all up in one day, if you understand.
I see.
Yeah, and then he says, and that is what I have to show you for the time being. And he says, you have any questions for me?
He seems like he's getting older the longer he talks.
Yes.
We all are.
Yes.
Could you take us back to Neverwinter?
He says, of course, if that is where you would like to go, then I will.
Well, first, yes, but we need to pick up some things in Neverwinter. Then we hopefully want to reach Waterdeep.
He says, would you like to stay until the druids arrive from the Enclave, or would you like to go post haste?
Sort of stop for a minute. It's like,
He says, if you
Bye.
leave your companion's body in our care, I will ensure you that it is seen to its proper arrest by the druids.
I would personally like to be there when he is laid to rest, but
And he
there are
says,
also urgent matters
it's
at
like,
hand.
I am sure you would. I'm sure you all would. However, you must understand there is some secretiveness to the druids and their way of life. It is highly likely they would not let you near their sacred grounds.
True. How long would you think it would take the druids to come to claim his body?
And he says, well, I sent them a messenger. There are enclaves all throughout the north. Probably an hour or so.
Oh, well, in that case, I can wait.
He sort of like nods and says, very well. Then you may entertain yourselves in the lounge down below. Feel free to peruse any of my selection of tomes. Says, would that I had something else to offer you as a means to pass the time, but
It will be fine, I'm sure.
Oh, excuse me, could I talk with you for a second?
of course, Zurich. And he says, would you like to, if you don't mind, he kind of like gestures for you to, follow him basically, as he
Yeah,
like tells
yeah,
the rest of the party to go to the lounge.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
I was,
I
I
have
was
to go
thinking
with
alone too, so only me and him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm
Time
alone
to
with him.
peruse some books.
Yeah, so he leads you to like sort of like a meeting chamber essentially, within the tower.
I go like, well, I've been here for quite a while now, and I was thinking, would you mind if I joined the adventures? I've been hooped up here for too long.
Yeah, so he sort of like looks at you and he says, I had a feeling that that's what this was about. And he says, and he kind of like smiles and says, I'd had half a mind to assign you to follow them around myself. And he says, they seem an interesting lot, and their travels seem to be tied up in this strangeness that has been happening with the giants lately. He says, they could prove a useful source of information, a powerful ally in the battles to come. And he says,
Aye, that's what I thought as well.
and he says, yes, I bid you do this. Join them. Travel around with them. Learn what you can of the giants, and if possible, stop them from destroying civilization as we know it. And of course,
Always.
do keep in touch from time to time.
Of course, you won't get rid of me that easy. And I kind of go like, well, I will go ask them if it's all right then.
He sort of like nods and says, "Good luck to you, Zurich." And he says, "And remember that we are always watching over you."
I kind of like give him a smile and I nod and say, "Thank you."
It wasn't meant to be reassuring.
He says, "If ever you need assistance in your travels, do not hesitate to ask one of your compatriots."
I want. Well, then I guess this is goodbye for now.
And he sort of like nods and says, "Yes, although I do expect you to keep in touch frequently."
Of course. And I kind of like stretch out my hand to give him a handshake.
Yeah, so he'll kind of like grab your hand, and shake it.
Strength check.
I mean, no. Yeah, so he grabs your hand to shake it. I mean, he's old, but he still has like a pretty firm grip. So he kind of like
Yeah.
grasps your hand, shakes it, and he says, "Good luck on your mission, then, brother Sirik."
Thank you. I kind of make my way down to the rest of the party.
Yep. So the two of them like return, and yeah, you all gather around, waiting for like the hour or so,
Back.
and at eventually you see this kind of like bird flies in to the into the room, perching on like Crowan's shoulder, like tweeting, like whispering into his ear, and he's like nodding, like, yes, of course, yes. He says, and he like suddenly like stands up and says, "Good news, everyone! The druids have agreed to meet us in the Silverwood outside to bear your friend to his final resting place."
I kind of look over at Al Quill, going like, "Can I talk with you for a second?"
Certainly.
And I kind of like wander off a little bit to the side.
Yeah, I won't like follow him.
I pull him up against the wall, put the hammer to his neck. No, I go like, "So, I've been hooked up here for way too long. I was wondering do you guys need a resident cleric?"
I mean, if you want to come along with us, you need not ask permission. You simply may just walk with us. That is usually how these things have been working out, from my perspective.
Well, I don't feel like just wandering into prying myself on him.
If from what I saw back in the tower, you are very useful to have around. I need not. I'm sure I need not explain to you the dangers that we are facing.
I look at him like, "I was holding your leg, healing your ass, while you were being beaten by a giant statue. Nah, you don't have to."
Yes, well, as long as you are aware of it, and
Aye.
you still want to come along, then by all means. I have nothing against it. Doubt any one of the others will have either.
Well, fair enough then.
Yes, I'd be happy to have you, Sir Thunderbird.
Happy to be a part of this wondrous band of adventurers. Yeah.
Yeah, don't ask
Start
anyone
laughing.
else what the name is. I say.
I start chuckling a little bit to myself as I start walking out.
Yep. I walk back. Was a bit confused about what just happened, but okay. This dwarf wants to come with us. Who am I to argue? It's not like we've picked up haven't picked up stranger folks in the past.
We haven't even had an interview though.
We never have an interview.
He's got to fill out the waiver.
Yeah.
What waiver?
The waiver
has
of
to
the
give up-
Crystal Crusaders.
Yeah, he has to give a
can't-
bit of blood to Zach.
No, the wrong campaign.
Oh man. Yeah. So after you had that discussion, Crowan's like, "Are you all ready now? Gather round close, and I'll bring you to the meeting spot."
I'm ready.
All right, yeah. So you all he like gets you to gather around, kind of like grabbing holding hands in like a circle as he mutters an incantation. And yeah, there's a sudden like sinking in your stomach as once again space is kind of like bent around you, and you are shifted from like one location to another. And suddenly, with like this popping sound that kind of disorients you for a time being. You are standing amidst like a clearing in the woods. You can hear the birds kind of like chirping around you. The sound of a stream running through the woods, and you can see a couple of people there. They seem to be human, dressed in kind of like brown robes with this like silver like stag's head emblem embroidered into their otherwise simple robes. And yeah, you all like arrive. And Corwin just sort of like he seems unfazed by the sudden like teleportation translocation. You're all still kind of like unused to it, reeling a bit.
Do we have to roll for teleportation sickness again?
No. So he says, greetings, my friends from the Enclave. He says, I am most appreciative that you could join us at this time. These adventurers here sought your aid with something. A member of theirs has fallen in battle. And yeah, you hear a voice coming from out behind the other two druids, and it's like, oh man, that's terrible.
Fuck no.
No,
We're
Brad,
leaving.
no. Brad, no.
I'm gonna burn his body now. Fuck all you guys.
Don't do this to Brad.
I told you. I called it. I called it.
There's a fucking giant badger coming
Yeah,
out
so
with
you
him.
see the two druids kind of like split, and you see a what looks like a gnome or a halfling of some sort sat atop this like kind of like giant badger, and he says, "Do you mind if I see the body, man? Tell me what happened."
And
The body.
bit taken aback by this man's way of speaking. I've never heard of a person speaking this manner before. I'm like, yes, of course, Lucas
I opened the bag of holding,
had like
and then I believe we had a lot of trouble putting the body in there.
yeah we put. Did we have trouble? I don't know if we did.
I don't know. It's trying to put a body through a small hole.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly easy.
Well, we'll I'll help
I
you.
turn around like so they don't see, and I'm like starting digging through the bag because the bag's like full of shit now.
I'll walk.
It's like, what are you doing?
Well, the bag of
man?
holding always gives you what you want what you're reaching in for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
yeah.
long as you know what it is.
Dig in and like grab Nibby by the his cold, lifeless hand, and I started like pulling him out to the best of my ability. I'm like, cool. Just keep him occupied for a little bit. This might take
yeah.
a minute.
It's like just give us a moment. There's
Yeah,
The,
he's like,
the hand
he's
comes
like,
off.
He's like,
the way.
he's like, right. I'm sure this is difficult for you. You know, you want to linger on your attachments and what? I'm sure. You know, I understand, man. Like, I get it. I really do.
Yeah,
Take as much time as you need. You know.
of course. That's what happened to him. Hey, we were some giants in a flying castle, I say, and well,
Psst, Will,
yes.
should we take anything from his body? Anything that we needed?
I just look over at like Lucas with this like shocked and almost offended expression.
He had some potions on him. Do we want to take those with us?
I kind of like look to the side and go like, oh god.
There's also a ring on my finger.
I'm not hearing this. I say.
So you know, I had a dream like that once. You know, I was flying through the sky and there was a castle and yeah, it was real good. Yeah. Man,
Yeah,
like I know you were like attached and everything. This is kind of taking a while, you know.
I'm like, it's been 5 minutes.
I just quickly walk over to Lucas' standing.
got like his like waist out from his waist up out.
I'll just grab like the body and like start pulling it out.
There's 2 potions of healing, 1 ring of water walking,
If you want to grab them quick.
the
Like I would say
30,
this character, but out character.
Anything
Yeah.
else?
30 platinum, 116 gold.
Rich as Druid.
Okay, 30
That's pretty
platinum.
much the worthwhile stuff.
And how much gold?
Just take his money.
106,
100 and what?
116.
116. Alright, so a ring of water walking and 2 potions.
The regular kind.
This is the most disorganized looting I've ever seen.
Listen, we
I imagine that I'm just like pulling him up as Lucas is quickly just like pickpocketing from the corpse as I'm just like pulling it.
Oh yeah, so you like strip the valuables off of the corpse. It's
Maybe
just pulled out from the bag. And yeah,
Maybe we should have done this before the funeral.
you like hold it, and I guess you like turn around and like once you've
So
got
much
the,
respect
once
and
you-
emotion to
once
see.
you've got the
We were grieving, Orton.
once you've
The
got
grieving's over now,
the
Bo.
body pulled out of the freaking cloth bag that you shoved in.
I
there.
turn around and like wipe a few tears from my face.
It's
Just
like,
like-
oh man, yeah. The you see as you like do that.
I have a new ring on my
The-
finger.
You wipe the tear away from the new ring.
The gnome like walks up and kind of like pats you on the leg. It's like, there, man. You know these sorts of things happen. It's a natural cycle, life and death. You know, I'm sure in
And all
time
that
you will
jazz.
be reborn as a spirit of the forest. He says, and you probably like lay the body down in front of him. And
Yeah.
I actually
Rory
will
kinda,
miss him. He was a good
looks it-
companion.
Looks it over and he's like,
He was a great snake.
he says, I can
The
sense.
best snake.
And he says, you can rest easy, my friends. I can sense his spirit has moved on. It has foregone its attachment to this world and is ready to become one with nature once more. He
Mike
says-
Spirit in the afterlife. No! Get him away!
Him.
And he says,
I hate this guy.
my companions and I will bear him to our sacred grounds. He says, to put him to rest.
Alright. If you
If you say so.
that sounds good, I say. I look down at like Libby's body, put my hand on his like dead shoulder. Says like I didn't know much about you from before we met in the Dales. But you have been a good companion, I says, and a good friend. I will miss you, Nibby. And I pat like him on the shoulder.
Alexei pats you on the shoulder, Alquil.
I pat you on the shoulder, Alex.
It's like,
Who's Alquil?
on the shoulder.
I'm not really sure what all this like shoulder padding's about, but you know, like
I look at him and it's the custom of the Crystal Crusaders.
I just look over at like Alexei. Lucas is like, why are you patting me? Why not like fucking? I'm not dead.
oh,
Why are we like
it's
this?
like, right? Well, yeah, and he kind of like as a companion, kind of like gather up the body and place it gingerly on the back of the badger, and he says,
Oh god.
and if you ever need anything, if you're out in nature, like lost, or you need supplies or just like a hand getting by, don't hesitate to call for the Enclave, man. Like we love helping people out there. He says,
How do we contact you?
he says, well, you can, I'm sure, and he kind of like looks at you. He's like, you look like one of those book folks. I'm sure you can send messages into people's minds. He says,
Minds.
he says, he
Okay.
kind of like puts out one of his small hands, and he says, the name's Rory Flint Spark.
Of course it was.
Yeah. Give him a shake his hand. Have an odd sense of deja vu and anger, but I quickly move past that.
All right, Rory. I says, take care.
And he says, you too, man. let nature watch over you. I can sense it within you, man, like a strong connection.
Yeah, I mean, I've been traveling around in the Dales most of my life, just exploring and such.
And yeah, he says the spirits of nature, they watch over you. I can tell. Anyways, kitty sack, let's go. And he kind of like hops on the back of the badger, and like begins to make his leave. And he says, best of luck to you, Crystal, whatever you were.
I love Rory.
I hate Rory.
Wow.
This is our chance. We could kill him.
You know,
We're letting
the
it
best
slip. We're letting it slip through our grasp.
you know the best part about the fact that you said that, Zach? That is, from what Brad told me, that's exactly the same reaction the other party had when they met him. They didn't even know the original Rory.
Oh,
But I mean, Rory was great. He was
I
a
should
good
just
friend.
cast Blight in some trees real fast. See how angry he
I
gets.
don't know why you guys hate Rory.
Oh, man.
You know why? Don't pretend.
Robert is great, and Rory was a great character.
Robert's an asshole, and I fucking hate him.
Wow.
Wow.
Anyway,
Wow.
That got a lot of personal.
yeah, so
log past.
they run off with Nibby's body to go give it a proper burial. As
Goodbye, Nibby. You will always be a Crystal Crusader.
Who died again?
So
I just turned to look at Alexei.
I'm
Like, are
kidding.
you serious?
She's like,
um,
I'm kidding. It's to lighten the mood.
What?
Humor is the best healing agent. That's what they say, right?
What
She
was
just
it
said,
you
"Who died again?"
said? Right. Not
Yeah.
funny.
So
Not funny at all.
Yeah, no.
I'll start
Mistimed.
I turn around and start walking.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
I think it's time we head back to Neverwinter, guys.
Yes. Let's.
yeah, Crowan turns you all. He says well, if you've had your share of seeing off your friend, he says Neverwinter, was it?
Yes.
And he says right, gather around then. Let us be off.
All right. I gather around.
Yeah, so once more he kind of like has you all join hands in a circle, muttering.
Are we going back to the teleportation circle? I ask.
Words and incantations. And as you're kind of like asking this, suddenly you just feel yourself being like shifted in space once more. This time much longer and much further of a distance, as suddenly you disappear from the forests of Silverwood and reappear in a familiar location, the dusty, sort of like downtrodden attic of the home in Neverwinter, which serves as the location of the circle there.
I stumble as we are like being suddenly
Yeah,
like
you
came
like
out.
stumble, like crash into a few like crates and stacks of books that have been scattered around.
Yep.
And yeah, as Crowan arrives, it's like, ugh. That's Andis, always making a mess here. I thought I told her to keep her space neat and tidy.
It's like
well, no matter, we have arrived in Neverwinter.
oh, we are here again. I see. I like sort of get up from my like what I thought the crates have been fell over. Well, that's good. I say. So when we want to go to Waterdeep, do we just come back here?
And he says, he kind of like nods and says, yes, if ever you want to use one of the circles and, you need the assistance of one of my apprentices to do so, simply find the safe house, and they are capable of furnishing the magics to transport you from one circle to another. They are aware of all the sigil sequences.
All right. Then thank you. Then I will. You've done a lot for us.
And he sort of he nods and he says, it is the least that I can do. He says, were I a younger sort, I might join you for this grand adventure, but he says, my place is in the tower, overseeing folks such as yourself, diverting resources where needed.
What was his name again?
I was thinking
are
the
you
exact
old
same
man?
thing.
Huh?
Are you the old man? Is
Yeah, I'm just like I don't I don't remember what he introduced himself as.
I've only said it like 5 times so far.
I don't-
He's Crowan Valharo.
Crowan Valharo. I probably mistyped it, but that's what I got.
Yeah, so he says, well, I'm sure Sandis is around here if you have any questions. In the meantime, ta-ta! And he just disappears.
What a
So
nice
he
old
tells me-
man. What was his name again?
Crowan Valhara.
Oh, I'm glad you remembered, Alquill.
It's just like, yes, of course. And it's like, I had to think for a moment though. Strange that.
So this is the same house that we teleported to from to begin with, right?
Yeah, this is where you teleported from. Sandis's
Yeah.
sort of like rundown little like house that she shacks up in. That the Harpers evidently own.
Shacks.
I go find Bella. Is she around?
You
Well,
left
I
her
don't
at
know.
like one of the stables in town, right?
Well, I left her I took her here because I was like, if we're teleporting, I want to take her with me. But then they convinced me that they would look after her while we teleported.
Yeah. I will go find Sirak, who also we left here.
Let's be honest, they're all probably at the stables or the inn.
Yep.
So we'll all just go back there.
Okay. Yeah, so I think you spend some time like basically like you were told like oh they'll be at such and such place. Yeah, you return to like to an inn and you find Sirik and he's like oh you've returned. He says I am glad to see you. And he says I take it you've been successful then.
I nod.
At a
Yes,
cost.
that's correct. But not without
yeah,
a cost.
he kind of like he like looks around. He says I see. He says I take it that things did not end well for the others. He says I see now that they are not amongst you.
Nibia has been brought to his order, or at least some other druids, so they can inherit him in whatever rights they have for fallen. We were not able to recover Greknar.
He sort of like nods and says that is unfortunate. And he says, but I've no doubt that Torm looks over their souls, brave and loyal as they were to their companions.
I'm sure he does. On the good news, though, we did complete our mission, and we have been given access to teleportation circles. I say with a hushed voice. Says we will be able to depart from Waterdeep directly. Says,
Yeah, he sort of like opens his eyes wide and says, is that true? Why, we could save quite a bit of time in that case. And he says, no offense, but I wasn't looking forward to walking another month along the road. Not exactly built for such a thing.
Understandable, I say. Well, I do have one more thing I have to do before leaving, I say.
I kind of look over at Alquill. I was like, didn't we have that thing that I believe it was Land of Astrial asked us to do?
Yes, correct. I have to make a visit to Helm's Hold outside of Neverwinter.
I'll accompany you.
I walk up to Sirak and I stretch out my hand and greet him.
Sirak meets Sirak.
Yeah, so he sort of looks you over and he says, I'm Sirik of Suzerael. These fine folks have agreed to escort me to Waterdeep. He says there are giants after me, and I feared for my life back in the Dales. He kind of like sticks out his hand to shake yours.
I like how all of us are always circumvent about saying why we're moving Sirik. And Sirik's just like, no, there are giants chasing me.
I'm like looking at him like, maybe you should keep that a little bit more to yourself from now on. Just don't say that They are chasing you. People don't need to know.
And he says,
But
I says, but I could not lie to people.
Just
just
Whistle.
avoid saying it. Don't lie. Avoid saying it.
And he says, lying by omission is still lying.
No. I asked for your name, not your story. My name is Sirach, Thunderbeard.
And he says,
Like, Sirik, how many people have you told that?
he says, well, just you and the Harpers.
oh, that's good.
Okay.
He says, I don't
That-
make it a habit to go wandering about places I don't know people. And he says, I trust in my friends to be loyal, but not so much the general populace.
I see. That's a good caution to have. I see.
And he says, yes, it is important in these times that we keep distance from one another, just in case.
6 feet.
Corona.
6 feet.
2 meters.
He says,
Yes.
well, I will be here, whatever business you've to conclude here. And he says, just let me
Shouldn't
know
take long.
when we're leaving. He says, I
Should
said, I am looking forward to quitting this place.
yes. It should not be long. I say. Helm's Hold is not even a day. I think. Looking at the map, when I peered at the map, I don't think it's even a day travels out, and I will only am delivering a message.
And yeah, so he like nods.
I look. I walk up to Alquil. Go like, so what's your plans here?
What?
What's your plans here in town?
I'm going to Helm's Hold. I don't have really much here in town to do.
Because I was just quickly gonna see if I find a proper forge and ask some questions.
Feel free, I says. We'll not leave without you, I say. I'm just planning to go down to Helm's Hold and talk to a knight there.
Hey, then I will meet you there. Oh, just gonna see if I can find a forge and meet you at Helm's Hold, huh?
All right.
So, Brad,
Hmm. Yes.
I've perused the markets of Neverwinter before, and the last time I was here, like a day or so ago. How big is the art scene?
It's not. It's there. But it's definitely.
I'm gonna get a
not,
better
like,
price in Waterdeep, aren't I?
Because yeah, well, Neverwinter's still like rebuilding and stuff, so people are less focused on making their homes like look nice and more about like we need
Having
to make our homes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll hold off till Waterdeep then.
I'll go find a guard.
Okay. Yeah. Like you can find one of the watch members.
I go
and
like-
he's just like, "What is it, citizen?"
Yeah. Anyway, do you guys have like a proper forge in the city? Like a big ass forge?
He just kind of like looks at you, and he says, "I think if if it's a forge you're looking for, a proper one." And he says, "You're better off looking in one of the holds of your people." And he says, "We've
look at him
nothing."
like-
I says, "We've nothing special here." And he says,
I look at
"Lest you want to go searching through the mountains for that old one lost to time."
I kind of look up at a mountain and go like, hey, I could do that. Anyway, trust me, I know dwarfs are better at making shit than you guys, but I was just asking. And I go like, fair enough. And I start walking towards Helm's Hold. I walk a few steps. I turn around and go like, where's Helm's Hold?
He just sort of like just like face palms. And he's just like, "It's to the south and east."
Thank you. And I start making my way that way.
Sure. You meet up with everybody else. Yeah, and begin making your way. I get you guys leave the southern gates of the city. And yeah, traveling to Helm's Hold, it's like an hour, at most. So it's not exactly a long journey. It's still like early in the morning. There are a number of like other people traveling to and from. It seems like there's definitely like trade back and forth between this fortress and Neverwinter. There are caravans that you pass along the way. It's a well trodden road. You pass many patrols of knights, kind of like making their way up and down the trade route, keeping an eye on things. And the ride there is safe. And when you arrive, you can see a very short distance from Neverwinter, what looks like this fortified, kind of like the central building almost looks like this like church or monastery that has been enclosed on all sides by these large stone walls, and you can see there are a number of knights patrolling these walls, whose kind of like breastplates have this symbol of the like gauntleted fist of Helm, but you can see there's an eye on it that is like gilded and resplendent with like light kind of shining off of it. You would know, you would probably know that this is, since you were told, this is sort of like not exactly like the main Church of Helm in control here, Alquil. There's some sort of like splinter order that runs this place. But you're not entirely familiar with the politics of the Order of the Gauntlet, as it were.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're patrolling the walls. You can see these big kind of like standards with the same kind of like symbol above them. This sort of like gauntleted fist with the eye, sort of like light shining from it, demons around them, sort of being like exterminated, blasted to smithereens. And yeah, you can see there's a line of people like up to the main gates of the stone walls. And there's like a couple of knights who are basically like checking everybody, going through like the process of asking questions before like submitting them in. A couple of people get turned away, and you're probably about like you're waiting in this line about halfway, when suddenly you sort of like hear like a shout from like up front, and you look and see that one of the knights has like grabbed one of the people who was like dragging a cart behind them, and another knight is kind of like pulling back the like cloth that was covering his like cart, and you can hear him shouting like, I swear, I'm not up to anything." And he says, and the knight just sort of shouts back, "We will see about that, demon worshipper. Search his cart." And they begin like searching through the cart.
What I miss?
We've reached Helm's Hall. We're currently in line for entering, and there's like some merchant up ahead who's
Yeah, so
being
it's like a
There's some
now that you
demon
can-
worshiper up
yeah,
ahead.
now that you look closely, it appears to be a tiefling.
I see.
Ooh, playing racism now, aren't we?
Racism, yeah.
Well, there's an easy mistake to make, guys.
Just
Wow.
gotta stare over at you.
Yeah.
The one, the eye glaring through the cloth at you.
That wasn't Alexei, that was James.
hmm
I was-
Yeah, so the knights begin like searching through the cart while this other guy is kind of like held with with like a sword nearby, and they begin like searching through the cart, and eventually he's like, "There's nothing here, sir," and he says, "Is that so?" And the knight kind of like glares at the tiefling and just sort of like shoves him aside. He says, "Right, you could come in." And he says, "But be quick about leaving." Right, and the merchant kind of like shoves through. Everyone's kind of like gathered around, just like whispering to each other. They don't seem to be like too stricken by this. Like this is to them like a daily occurrence almost.
Mhm.
And yeah, so you all eventually make your way up to the front, and the knight sort of like stops you, and he says, "Halt there! I do not recognize you, travelers. What business do you have in Helm's Hold?"
Greetings, I say. I am Alquil Redmoon. I come here bearing a message from Laniver's trial to one of his friends, I say, whose name I apparently have not written in the fucking journal anywhere. I've been searching now, both through the quest log and through my own notes. I can't find the name of the friend.
Yikes.
I'm sure I wrote it down.
I mean, clearly you didn't.
Apparently not.
Brad, have pity on our wayward fool.
Oh man, let's see here. Where is it?
Like, I'm sure Alquil would not have forgotten.
Yes,
Ah, shit.
her name
Need to
was
BRB 2 seconds.
Danica.
Danica.
Yeah, so you tell them that?
Yes, this is like
And he says,
to his friend Danica. You say,
he says,
I'm only here to deliver the message and then leave.
he says, Sir Laniver sent you after Sir Danica, is that so? Oh, says, right.
Yes.
Says, well, she is a busy knight. He says, but, he kind of like looks over you all. He says, and then his eyes like lock on, onto you, Lucas.
Nope, no, don't.
And he just
No, don't. No, don't.
What are you hiding beneath that cloth there? That does not have the look of a normal patch.
I lost my old patch. I'm doing the best I can to remain decent.
Make a deception check.
You must. Can I assist by saying that, like, you must forgive my friend. He felt terribly ill when he was younger.
I should have waited to roll. Why do we always do this?
Yeah, so he sort of like looks at you like a bit, and he says, there's a shakiness in your voice. You're avoiding
you
eye
rolled good.
contact with me. And he says, you
I
cannot
only have
hide
one
things
eye.
from.
I'm sure how you could easily see that.
And he says, you cannot hide things from the Inquisitors of the Gilded Eye. And he says, out with it. What are you hiding?
Micropenis.
How well should I just turn and walk away?
I look at. I'm standing right next to me. If I whisper, he will hear me.
Oh, I mean, I guess he heard me too. I shrug. I'm like, all right. Do I have any like? No, I don't have anything to hide it. Yeah, they'd see me cast a spell anyways. I can't do anything. Yeah, I'll comply, and I'll like keep it shut. I won't open the eye.
All right, yeah. So you
Got
like
'em.
pull it off, and you've got your like eyelids closed. Yeah. So he's kind of like looks over, and he says, what do you make of this, brother? And the other one kind of like turns and looks, and he says, I don't know. And they like he kind of like begins like looking a little bit closer. Let's see here. He says, and yeah, he sort of says, he kind of like shrugs. He's like, I'm a knight, good sir, not a medicant. And he says, I could not tell if he was afflicted by something. And
I have medicinal profession.
he just kind of like sighs. And the knight sort of says, very well. He says, present your belongings for inspections.
Am I there yet, or am I a little bit
You're
further
all
back?
you're all there.
Yeah, we're all here.
Yeah.
Can I
Okay.
put my cloth back on?
He says, very well.
Put it back on. Phew. Kind of scratch at it. Feels weird to have the cloth off.
Yeah, I mean, I show what I have,
Yeah.
which is not much. My weapons, my armor,
Okay, I'm back for good this time.
my other armor,
Sure.
You
my
say
maps, the evidence of Vailish Gant and Slim's crimes.
You're still just carrying around for some reason. Yeah, so he basically ordered like everyone to like show him all of their belongings. They're doing like an inspection or whatever.
Hmm.
And they're just
Man,
they're kind of like shouting at you like, you know, like it is
I have some
the
hard
duty,
devil worshipping stuff in
It's
my
a-
bag of holding, guys.
it is the duty of this order to rout out those who would corrupt the North and all of its free peoples, the vile worshippers of the demons.
My blue book with an oral star on it that I still have.
And it's not like demon worship. That's like
Yeah, I mean that's
Oral- Oral's
I don't know if I
it's
want them
dumb.
to go through my bag with my huge art objects and like thieves' tools, disguise kits.
Look, they're only looking for devil worshippers. They're not looking for thieves and criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I won't go out of my way to show them anything in my bag. I mean, unless they're like, open that small pouch on your hip. Because otherwise, I'm not holding anything.
Yeah, I mean they like make a show basically like show us everything like in bags, things that are like wrapped in satchels. Like they want to see everything.
Oh my god. Yeah. I don't know how they're gonna feel about me having all this shit in a tiny little bag of holding.
They
I
probably
mean,
know it's not.
They
they're
don't know that.
common. Like they're not idiots.
Sure. I mean, I'll show them the bag of holding, I guess. Do I have to take out everything?
They don't know what everything is in there.
Yeah, they don't know what
True,
everything
true.
is in there.
But they
pull
might know
out.
that you can get everything out by wringing it inside out.
Let's hope they don't.
And he says, a bag of holding. He says, go on, show us then. He just like kind of looks expectantly.
I pull out my sizable book, which I stole from a like I'm pretty sure it's just a huge fucking ledger I stole very early on.
And he's just like, this is going to take all day. Just dump the thing out.
Listen,
What have you to
there's some,
hide, sir?
there are some valuable
Are you
objects
under the
in here.
Are you under the influence of a demon?
I swear to fucking God, there are valuable things in here, and I do not want to harm them.
Alexei leans over to Alquil and whispers, "It's like, is this bad? This feels bad."
And he said, do you not know how magic works, good sir? You dump out the contents, they are unharmed. They simply appear
true,
here
Brad?
in this space. I mean, yeah, you imagine so. He says, do not try to fool us. We're not born yesterday.
You know what? Fine. I step back a little bit out of the line because there's a lot in here. And I look at Alquil, I was like, make sure no one steals my shit.
I will keep an eye out as good as I can.
I look at Sirik. It's like, you two, you have the best eye among us.
Huh?
You have the best eye among us. Make sure no one steals anything. And I
Alright.
just empty it out.
Alright, yeah, so
I
you
like-
just like,
Can I
Pull-
mass link my inventory?
yeah, I mean, you like pull the bag. I don't think you have anything really that could be considered like demon worship.
I mean, unless they really want to call me out on this blue book with the oral star
Necessarily.
that like.
So you just like
oh,
pour out, like I think all the like regular people and merchants are just like shocked as you pour open this bag and just like statues and all sorts of shit just starts pouring out of it, like coins and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, they like take a moment to like. Look
I
it
like to
over.
imagine the coins are in a smaller pouch of their own.
Yeah, and they like begin to they kind of like take a moment to like look through everything, picking up the like statues, like inspecting them, and like they're making a point of like looking over everything, before they like hand it all back to you, and they're just like, and he
Call them
says,
assholes in Draconic under my breath.
they're just like, well, none of it seems to be under the influence of any fell demons or devils. And he says, though we are
Really?
loath to admit someone who is so secretive. And he says, it would seem as though there is nothing that would allow us to prevent you passage. So you may well make your way into Helm's Hold.
I spend the next like fucking 30 minutes putting everything back in.
By the time you're done putting it all back in, we'll be out of the Helm's Hold again.
I mean, you guys go ahead
Yeah, I just
if
like,
y'all have to.
thank you. I'll start moving in.
Right.
See if we can find.
I'm gonna eyeball fucking everybody.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's fucking, like, Knights of the Order of the Gauntlet here. They're not gonna start running and grabbing your shit on you.
I don't
Get out of here,
fucking-
vultures!
Yeah, so you guys make your way through the walls, and inside you see numerous what are obviously residences that surround this sort of central district. You can see there are a number of sort of like inns. There's like an open tavern room with a sign that you can see reads "The Old Dirty Dwarf." And there's sort of like this bustling marketplace of people coming and going, like selling various like goods and supplies. In the centerpiece of this marketplace, you see a large sort of wooden scaffolding that has been set up with a with a hangman's kind of like noose hanging empty there in the center of the marketplace, sort of swinging in the breeze. And people seem to mostly kind of just like ignore it, but it is definitely like the dominant thing in this marketplace. And then just past that, you can see there's a trail that leads up a short hill to the building that sort of dominates most of the skyline. This towering and inspiring edifice of pale gray stone that is the main cathedral of this sort of fortress. And it seems almost like half fortress, half temple. And there are a number of sort of like buildings sort of attached to this building, and a number of knights kind of like wandering around. Yeah, and so you arrive in this place. I guess how are you going to find who it is that you seek?
Ask a guard.
All right. So you walk up to one of the helmed knights.
Yep.
And he just kind of like looks at you, and he's just like, "What business do you have, traveler?"
I'm searching for Sardanica, I say. I have a message from her friend, Lanvestral. So Lanvestral.
Yeah, so he says, Stryle, eh? And he says, figures. And he says, so Danica's up in the main fortress. And he says, I believe she was meeting with the Holy Watcher. He says, I'm sure she'll be done soon.
Thank you. And I turned around and walked up towards the main fortress.
All right. Yeah, and as you walk up, you can feel Alquil, like the eyes of like every one of these like knights kind of like watching you, and the rest of the group. Definitely sort of like this, almost like, like just like you're being watched.
Weird feeling. I don't think that's it. They don't seem very friendly here. Strange place. This is.
They're probably not used to having celebrities.
They did not seem to recognize us at the gates.
Oh.
Yeah, so you make your way up to the main fortress. And you can see there are a number of people kind of like coming and going. It definitely seems like this is like a multi-use structure. You can see an area. There are a number of what appear to be sort of like small like children of many different kind of like races running around. Many of them dressed in kind of like more ragged looking clothes. Obviously, like there's an old woman kind of like chasing them around. Obviously, this house is some sort of like orphanage. There's definitely like there's an area set aside which is like quite obviously some sort of like hospital structure. And then there's like an addendum building to that. You're not really sure what the purpose of. And then there's also kind of like this large training grounds sort of outside where you see a number of knights kind of sparring and practicing archery and what likes. But you can see there's like the main kind of like cathedral fortress building. And there are a number of knights sort of like standing outside. And as you like walk up to it, the front of it's like open to the public because it's like it's still like a church mainly, so they kind of like just let you in as you like walk up, and you can see there's like a big kind of like cathedral with a stained glass window with like Helm's gauntleted fist in profile on it, and there's like as you're walking in, there's like a priest delivering a sermon about the dangers of demons and how their influence can spread, and how it is the duty of all of the Knights of the Gauntlet to find and rout out this demon influence wherever it might be. Basically just like spouting this kind of like religious zeal to a number
Is this
of like,
demon
knights.
stuff like new, or is this always what they're like?
I mean, you don't know. Like the Order of the Gauntlet themselves, like they don't like have like a hard line kind of thing. Like they're definitely about protecting good and maintaining order. But they aren't necessarily like we must kill all demons and like excise them from existence. But obviously this is some sort of like splinter group within them that is more concerned about those things.
Right.
So they aren't violating the doctrines of Helm. They're just kind of pushing them to the extreme.
Bloody extremists.
You say that?
No.
Yeah, so all eyes are on you as you like make your way into the main like cathedral, and there's like a number of different like passages that lead off. And eventually, as you're kind of like standing around, somebody like approaches you, and it's just like, you don't look like knights from the order. And he says, you need help with something. You look lost.
Yes, thank you. I say, I'm looking for Sedanica. Says I have a message to her from her friend Solana Mistral.
He says, Sir Danica, Zarn, the young upstart. Of course, of course. She says, I will fetch her for you. She was in a meeting just a moment ago, but I believe it is finished for now.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
So-
and the priest kind of like wanders off. And a few moments later, returns joined by this sort of tall, well-built, kind of like striking woman dressed in full plate mail armor with the same sort of like regalia of the gilded eye symbol. She has like this massive like greatsword kind of like strapped to her back. You see this large kind of eye with a jewel set into the pommel. And you can see there's like some sort of like squire or something like trailing behind her. And she like looks over you like arms crossed, and it's just like, I was told there was some outsiders seeking to speak with me. Make it quick. I've important
Oh.
business.
I don't like her.
I was like,
I'm glad I'm
Ah.
not there.
so Danica, I presume. I am Alquil Redmoon. Yes, and these are my compatriots. I introduced them in turn. Says, I came here bearing a message from Solana Vestrile, I say.
Yeah, you see like one of her eyes kind of like raises at that, and it says, Sir Stryle sent you. And
I nod.
He says, I told that old man not to worry about me anymore. And he says,
I say, well,
what is it? He sent you to pester me? Says to
well, he was
beg me to reconsider my life's choices.
just like, well, he mostly wanted me to convey the fact that he is indeed, as you say, worried about you. Just worried about your future and about what choices one makes during one's lifetime. Just, but mostly that he's just worried about you, about your safety and well-being.
Yeah, so she says, well, I'm flattered that he's worried about me, but he should spend less time worrying about the fate of some girl and more time worried about the strength of this realm against the incursion of demons. He says, even now, rumors reach us of far to the south where Baldur's Gate is set upon by demons and devils.
Is that from a different module, guys?
This is like,
Sounds like it's from a different module.
I'm just like saying, yeah, but it's just like, I cannot presume to speak much about knowledge of demons and the like. It's just, I have not much experience with these kinds of creatures. So,
Yeah, so she just sort of like says, well, it is good that you stay that way. And he says, you would not like to deal with such creatures, vile and depraved as they are. He says, but if Sir Laniver sent you to pester me about worries, there is something that has been troubling us here in the in Helm's Hold, something we aren't exactly equipped for. Perhaps you might be able to help.
perhaps we are in a bit of a hurry traveling to Waterdeep, but
We have to get Mike's character in here at some point.
She says, well, we here in the Order of the Gilded Eye are especially trained in dealing with demons and devils, but this new threat is beyond our wheelhouse. These giants that have been wandering the lands.
of course, I say.
Handle demons, but not giants.
That's just like that's more of our specialty.
And she says, scouts from the hold spotted frost giants wandering the lands to the south, attacking and plundering the homesteads and caravans along the high road. And he says, if you could find out
No.
where these giants are coming from and stop them,
The north.
it would definitely take a weight off of my shoulders.
Says, the Sea of the Moving Ice, the north. I say that's.
And she says, I know that. There's some sort of vessel or something that they're upon.
Oh yes, ships.
And he says,
Say.
Flying fortresses.
No, the frost giants do not have flying fortresses. I said frost giants come with longboats, ships.
and she says, I said, we would like you to find out where it is they're putting to land, that we might set up a watch to keep them from doing so again, to protect these folks.
I see.
And he says, we here in the Order deal with more down-to-earth things. And he says,
Laugh at her.
not funny jokes of, haha, the giants come from the north. Or are you just here to waste my time?
I says like, no. I says down to earth things. Yes, such as demons and the like. But no, fear not. I says we are already dealing with the giant incursion. It's the reason I'm traveling. Says. So if I happen upon these frost giants on my way to Waterdeep, we will inform you of their location, unless we deal with them ourselves, of course.
She just sort of like nods and says, do that and it'll be a weight off my shoulder and perhaps Sir Laniver can go back to worrying about something more important. He says, I'm not a little girl anymore. I can take care of myself.
I'm sure you will, but I say it like it is not the want of those who perhaps consider us as kind to their own to stop worrying about us simply because we have grown a bit taller. So he is truly worried about you. I could tell, even if I only spoke with him for a little less than a day. Say. And you might think it's an old man badgering you, but you'll find that once the old man is gone, that badgering wasn't as bad as perhaps the loneliness of the departed.
Yeah, she sort of just
Sort of advice.
he just sort of
I
like
say.
looks at you and he says, are you going to stand there and wax philosophical all day? I've got more important things to deal with. You've delivered your message.
Yes, of course. I say, thank you for your time, Sir Danica. Says,
This bitch just tell us to fuck off.
Yeah. Yes, she did.
Yeah, and she just like kind of like makes herself scarce. Clearly, like you could tell, like she immediately begins like shouting orders at some of the night. Like she seems like she's pretty high up in the hierarchy here. Make like an insight check.
An insight.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Throughout that whole conversation, like you could tell she was putting up like this sort of like stern demeanor. But you could definitely tell like she's under a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Well, I say the giants are attacking south of here, huh? Perhaps we'll have to look into that at some point. I say as I turn to the others. But first, let us use this opportunity to get to Waterdeep.
Very well.
Very well.
Our job here is done. Let's leave.
I'm just following you guys right now. I have no idea what we're doing here.
Yeah. So as you guys leave the fortress, you still feel kind of like the eyes on the back of your head, as everyone's just kind of like eyeing you closely. keeping a watch as you finally like make your way out the gates, which is significantly easier than making your way in. They sort of like let you by without much hassle. And yeah, you make your way down the road past all the caravans looking to get in, and yeah, within an hour, still early in the morning, return to the city of Neverwinter and the gates there, where the guards just kind of like wave you in. They saw you leave this morning, so they wave you
Yes.
through.
Good, good, good. Let's get our belongings and get to the fucking teleportation circle.
Sounds good.
Come, Windstrider.
Yeah, so you gather up your belongings and whatnot, heading over towards where the teleportation circle is housed.
Yes.
And yeah, when you arrive, you see like Sandis has returned from wherever she was, poring over some tomes. She's a little like startled as you like return, and she says, I was Master Valharo told me that you had returned, but he says, I must admit I wasn't expecting you just yet. Is there something I can help you with?
Well, it's just like very not, but we are ready. I say. We would like to go to Waterdeep.
She says, Waterdeep, of course. Many people like to go there. Yes, give me a moment. I will prepare the circle. He says, are you... And she kind of like looks, I guess you've kind of like got your mouth sort of like outside the building. And he says, it might be a little bit difficult to get them up there, but, she says,
Yes.
It's worth it.
says,
Do
she
go on.
starts trying to like think to herself. She says, well, I suppose, she says, and she kind of like looks out the door, kind of like looks around. She says, I suppose I could draw the circle out here. He says, I'll just have to, it'll be a little bit longer. I have to set up a perimeter, make sure nobody can see us.
Of course, of course. Do what you must.
And she says, yeah, so she begins like sort of setting up this like wards basically to like mask what's going on here. And as she does, he's sort of talking, like, I must warn you that the location of the circle, although I've never been there in Waterdeep myself, it might not exactly be compatible with your animal companions there. Says you might have some difficulty getting them out. Just
I look at-
forewarning.
I look at Windstrider. I say like, I'll meet you again. I'll meet you again in Waterdeep, and I use my action to dismiss him.
Yeah, it's just like kind of like nods. He says, I look forward to it. And then disappears like the wind.
Yep. Little snowflakes left behind.
You still have one real horse.
Yep. So I just like, well, at least this should make it a little bit easier, I say.
Yeah, so like the time like passes. She finishes setting the wards. It means like drawing this circle. She's like, just get in close. The wards cannot disguise our activity for too far, so don't go wandering off. And yeah,
course.
so she draws the circle. It takes a number of minutes, but eventually she sort of finishes the circle, claps her hands, and she says, "Right, it is ready." She says, "I will send you on your way. Well, first let me and she sort of like puts a gestures some like sigils in the air and like places a hand up to her forehead, and she says, Myrna, it's me, Sandis. I'm sending some folks your way. Master Valharo has granted them permission to use the circles. I just wanted to warn you." Yeah, so she like sends this.
They have horses.
What?
P.S. They have horses.
Yeah. Yeah, and she sort of like nods. She says, yep. And she says, right. Says, she'll be expecting you. Her name
That's good.
is, I said, says, don't mind. She's probably just going to wave you through. I'm not exactly the most sociable of girls, but she's even less so.
That is fine, Princess. You're doing fine.
That's right. Let me mumble the incantation here, and she kind of like gestures and kind of like mumbles the spell, and you see like a bright light begins to form in the center of the circle. And she says, "Now go quickly. It's only a matter of seconds before it closes."
I just walk through.
All right.
Come on, Bella.
Hop in.
Yep, I will walk through as well.
Only half of Bella makes it through in time.
Slice.
Yeah. So Bella definitely seems like she's kind of like rearing up at the sight of this like magical portal, and you're
Nah,
like
she trusts me.
she's like having to like shove her through.
Animal handling.
Yeah, I guess make an animal handling check. Let's see how easy it is for you to like get her through.
Ooh, yikes. Guess who's about to be left behind? Me and Bella.
At least we get Mike's character.
Where is it? Animal.
Don't be too sure.
Wow, nat 20.
All right, yeah. So you
Nice.
The utmost trust.
you're
I
you're
didn't
sort
need-
of you're you're used to like dealing with like Bella at this point, and you are easily able to calm her down enough to like get her to walk through the portal, and yeah, so you all make your way through the portal, and then on the other side, as you all sort of like appear, there's definitely like this tearing and this shifting that happens again. But at this point, you're sort of growing used to it now, sort of being shunted through dimensions. And you all arrive in an incredibly small, dank, like stone room. There's some like candlelight that's like lighting it up, but otherwise it's like completely dark. And it is incredibly cramped, especially with this large horse taking up so much of the space. As you all kind of like arrive in this circle, and you can see there is a staircase that like leads up, and at one end there is what appears to be like a small alcove with like a desk with a number of like papers kind of stacked up. There's a person like sitting there at the desk just kind of like writing, and then there's like a simple like cot shoved to the side, but other than that there's like no furniture or anything in this room. As you kind of like all arrive like trampling over each other on this large horse, she just kind of like puts up a hand and kind of like points you to the stairs.
Greetings, I say. Thank you. And I will try to help lead the horse out of the stairs along with Lucas.
Okay, yeah. So there's this like narrow staircase that's like incredibly cramped. So you're kind of having to like shove like the horse up these stairs, and like they're not really great at going upstairs. So it's a process. And as you get to the top, you see like it's basically like darkness. You see like darkness ahead of you. Those of you with dark vision could see that basically at the top of the stairs, there's just like stone like covering the ceiling. There's not like an actual opening there, but as you like push your way up to the stairs, you hear like a grinding sound, and the stone begins to like slide to the side, and you see what looks like an arm sort of like grabbing onto the lid of something and like sliding it over, and as you make your way up, you could tell that you are walking up out of a sarcophagus in the middle of some sort of large mausoleum.
Well, that's spooky, isn't it?
And there is a massive iron sort of like golem of iron and wood that is like lifting the lid and putting it aside as you like enter.
Very nice place you got here, I say back downstairs.
You don't hear like hear like a response, but then you hear some like a whisper in your mind. She says, when you wish to return, tell the guardian Myrna. It will move the lid.
Myrna, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And you can see there's like a stone door that leads out of this mausoleum crypt.
Myrna. All right. Yes. So we're at this crypt. Well, let's find the exit.
Yeah, there's like a set of stone doors that like is obviously the exit. And
I
looking
will-
around, you can tell like this, although it's like built like a mausoleum and like looks like a mausoleum, it's obviously like fake. No one has ever been buried here.
This is spooky.
It's just like, well, it's fake. I say.
It's still
Um,
spooky.
And yeah, so as you like all exit from the stairs, you can hear the grinding as the golem sort of sets the lid back in place over the stone sarcophagus. And now, like looking, you couldn't even tell that there was like anything beneath it. Like, obviously, it's pretty well hidden. And yeah, so you can see the doors. As you open them up, it opens up into the bright light of the sun. And you can see that you appear to be in what appears to be like this massive, sprawling graveyard of mausoleums, like above ground mausoleums, with a number of like statues kind of set bronze and marble scattered around in various different styles, all of them sort of, some of them more like embellished than others. And there are as you like look around, you can see there are people kind of like wandering around the graveyard, kind of taking in the sights, paying their respects. But it's still early in the morning, so it's relatively abandoned.
Just noticed that Mike's character is called Alexei's babysitter in Roll20.
Yeah, and you can see like there is this almost is sort of like, it's kind of like, rather than just like a boring like graveyard, it's almost like this kind of modern notion of like a park mixed with a graveyard. There's like open grassy areas, well tended flower beds, clusters of trees and bushes sat around benches and the likes. And there's like beautiful sculptures and architecture all over the place. It is truly like a splendid sight compared to everything else that you've seen in your journeys so far.
Well, so where to now?
And of course, Alexei, you would immediately recognize that you have arrived in the City of the Dead, Waterdeep's sort of large, like, local park and cemetery.
It's good to be home.
You live here? I say, looking around at like all this like graves.
Well, not specifically here, but you know, the city. It's got that air about it. Doesn't it smell wonderful?
Smells like graveyard.
Maybe it's well. Anyway, where should we go?
It sounds like.
Would you like to come visit my home?
I mean, I don't know. I
Do
just
we
like.
get to stay there for free? Do we have to, or
First guest rooms.
an inn? Sounds like a plan to me.
Yay!
Yes, sounds good. I guess.
Let's go.
Lead the way.
And I'll take them to my house. I think I don't know. Did you say Lucas has come to visit me in the past?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. I'm sure everyone will be glad to see you again, Lucas.
How eccentric is your family?
Well, they raised Alexei, and I said to Mike all her parents and siblings are quite eccentric as well, so.
And they're very French.
And they're very French.
And they're very French, yes. But Brad, we shall make our way to Alexei's manor.
Manor of the
Okay.
Bourbons.
So you press your way through the City of the Dead out into the main streets of the Trades Ward in which it is placed, and you know your way around these streets sort of like the back of your hand, having grown up here. It is incredibly like even more so than Neverwinter. The streets are just packed. You can see people coming and going in every direction. You're kind of having to push your way through crowds at all times. The center of the street, you can just see carts, like carriages being drawn by horses, back and forth. People sort of like mad running across the streets as they pass by. They're shouting and screaming, and people trying hawking their wares. And you can see guards kind of like patrolling back and forth. It is in every respect this sort of big metropolis.
Hey, I'm walking
A
here.
mixing pot of people. Very New York. And yeah, so you begin to make your way up to the North Ward where most of the noble estates are. And yeah, you make your way there, and things definitely like as you move from the trades ward, where a lot of people like live and work and all that kind of stuff, up to the north ward, the streets begin to calm down a little bit more. Obviously, still like bustling, but there's more of like a peaceful domain here. You can see the sort of like iron lampposts that kind of light the way on the streets. Obviously dark now since it's the middle of the day, but they're well wrought and well cared for. And there are a number of row houses kind of lining the way. All of them quite tall and resplendent. With beautifully trimmed gardens, what little gardens they have here in the main city. And there are a number of like cafes and sort of things along the way. But you make your way down the streets towards the Von Bourbon estate, sort of off to the north, near the outskirts of the district, closer to the walls. And yeah, you eventually arrive there. It's kind of this like cramped in. Obviously, it's like the city proper, so it's not like a big grand like estate with tons of like yard space. It's pretty like it's like this kind of like row house with like a small yard and a wall that like cordons it off, and it's like pressed right up against another house. But you can see your home, Alexei, standing there, and there is basically you can see the entrance there, and like the lone guard that kind of like keeps watch over the entrance. As you approach.
Very well. It's not Mike's character, is it?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I will sure proceed up to the door and say, "Hello, I've returned."
Yeah. So the guard kind of like waves as you kind of like come running up, and he says, the young lady Alexei, it has been some time. And he says, I've word that there is a guest expecting you.
What did he say? There's a guest expecting me.
Yes. Or something of the likes.
A guest? Very well. Is my father home? My mother and my sister?
I says, alas, your father is on one of his grand trade expeditions down to the Baldur's Gate, seeking a new means of trade there. He is not in. Your mother, I believe she just left with your sister on a girl's day out, as it were. The house is currently unoccupied to save this lone individual waiting your return.
Very well. And she'll say it's like, I'll go see to this guest then that's arrived. And prepare the guest rooms as well for my companions, if you would.
I said,
Send word to the
I
servants.
says, of course, my lady. I will have the servants begin on it right away.
And then, like, as she goes into the house, she'll turn to the rest and she's like, "A guest is expecting me? That's very strange. I didn't send any word to anyone that I was coming."
Yeah, so you are let into the house. You can see it's kind of, it's very, very resplendently decorated. There's definitely kind of this like maritime sort of tradey theming to everything. But there's also like displays of what look like items of magical potential or the likes, a staff above the mantelpiece or a wand in a display case or something of the likes. And yeah, you can see like the house. You kind of make your way through the main chamber, and the foyer, as it were, and through into the like main kind of like sitting area. And yeah, when you arrive there, rather unexpectedly, you can see there is an older looking gentleman wearing sort of like heavier armor, despite being like indoors. And he's just sort of like waiting there. And Mike, I guess you can go ahead and describe your character as he's just sort of like waiting, expecting for Alexei to arrive home any moment now.
Well, he's a little over 6 feet, a little quite broad-shouldered for his age. He's got almost a little bit of more to the white, but white and like salt and pepper hair. And and well, I mean, you can see the picture. I think. Are you able to pop it up?
Alexei's babysitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you should be able to.
Hmm.
Sir Ilamil Deganis. Only took the entire session. Yeah, I was thinking that as well.
Said, well, you guys did a lot of talking to people and stuff.
Yeah, like I'm not blaming anyone but myself. I'm sorry, Mike.
I'm not bothered.
He
I don't
is.
like playing with you guys anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, you see this man sitting there, and you hear the footsteps of some people approaching into the manor house. Alamir.
Yeah. I arise from. I'm sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
And I arise.
Yeah. So you turn, you stand up, you see Alexei kind of like striding into the room, and behind her a rather assorted lot of ruffians and sellswords, all of them still looking dirty from travel.
Wow.
Ah, young lady Alexei, welcome home.
Sir Alamir, if it was just you, he should have said so. And then she'll like come up and give you a hug.
And this must be the Crusaders of which you've mentioned in your letters.
Yes, indeed. And she'll like put her hands on her hips, strike a proud pose, and she'll say, "Allow me to introduce you to the rest of the Crystal Crusaders. This is Alquil Redmoon. This is Lucas Wormwood, and this new addition is Zurich Thunderbeard." And then,
And the Syrax of Susrael is also with us.
oh yeah, and this is Zurich of Suzerail, and we have Briork, don't we?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And this is Briork Arnskill.
Cyric just like Briork just like huh. And Cyric just sort of like gives like a bow. Pleasure to meet you, Sir Knight.
I give a light bow and I say, all of you are most welcome to the One Bourbon mansion. I am Sir Alamir Ganis. I am the head of the household guard. And I'm
I've been assigned
afraid...
to come with you.
No, not like that. I'm afraid to. Unfortunately, the Lord of the Manor is not here to greet you all. He is away in business.
Yes, we heard as much. Something about Baldur's Gate, I say.
Indeed.
Well, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Sir Alamir Ganis. As I like to say, I'm Alquil Redmoon.
As you guys are like kind of like making your introductions, a maid comes in, sort of holding a tray with a freshly like brewed pot of like tea and some like cups, and begins like pouring them out for everybody.
Tea.
Ooh.
Oh, I've missed having a good cup of tea.
Ah, thank you. I'll grab a cup of tea.
How long has it been since Alexei left again? Like after the 9-year gap?
It's been like a month and a few weeks.
Okay, so not that long then.
So I'm gonna grab the cup of tea, and as I like put it up to my mouth, I try to drink, but like nothing comes up, and like I look down at the cup, and the water has frozen.
Oh,
Would we notice this?
I sort of like looked down at it. I was like, Alexa, did you do something? So
What do you mean?
I put down my cup and like just the entire
Oh.
water.
She like taps it and says, "That's strange."
Yeah, I think the servant kind of like sees this and is like, "Oh, I am terribly sorry. Allow me to pour you another cup." And like quickly like fetches another cup and like pours a fresh one to give to you.
Yeah, like thank you, and I'll take the other cup and drink that. That one doesn't freeze.
And Alexei will like sort of like chuckle, and she says, "Well, that was very interesting."
This is like, do you have many of these magical cups? I say, as like I finish this one.
I don't know. And she'll look at the servant and she says, "Is this a magical cup?"
He says, "No, my lady. 'Tis a normal cup, handed down from through your family, through the generations."
And she'll just shrug and like, jokingly, tap Alquil for elbow and says, "Maybe you've got some magic after all."
I mean, yeah, he
Okay.
does. We've seen him cast spells.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the power of Queer Windstone does flow through.
That's
through
not
magic.
arcane magic, though, is it?
Is there a difference?
Well, if you want, we'll discuss that another time.
Yeah. So the servant turns to the servant girl turns to you, Alexei, and says, "Is there anything else you would like, my lady?"
And she'll like tap her chin and she says, "No, I think this should be all for now. Like I said, just make sure that the guest rooms are prepared for my companions."
She sort of like gives this curtsy, says, "Of course, my lady," and kind of like backs out, making her presence like disappear out of the room.
Hmm.
Do you have any urgent business to take care of?
I'd like Lex will think for a moment and she'll say, "Well, I should probably report back to Blackstaff Academy at some point." And she'll turn to like Alquil and the rest and she says, "Other than that, what should we prioritize first?"
Well, I say, I look at Sirak of Susrael, not Sirak Thunderbird.
God damn it, Morton! Why did you do this?
Because I
at-
can.
I look at Sirak of Susrael and I say, like, you were wanting to speak to the Roaring Horns, was it?
Yes, he kind of like nods and says, "Yes, I believe that an old acquaintance of my father, their estate is here. I've heard many things about the House of Roaring Horn, although I must admit I don't know where I might find them. But Alexei, you being like a noble, definitely know of the Roaring Horn family. They're like a high house in Waterdeep. They've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And you would know vaguely where their estate is."
Yes. Probably a masked person who runs the city. What are they like personality wise? Could we just rock up?
So the Roaring Horn family is actually pretty well known for basically hosting like grand parties and galas like basically all the time, and oftentimes basically just like letting in anybody who wants to show up. You don't know much about the current like head of household. You know his name is Lord Zelroun Roaringhorn, and he's definitely like he's older than he looks. You've heard, and he's always accompanied by some sort of like construct that basically like follows him around. But other than that, you haven't really heard much about him and his personality.
And she says, "Well, I'm not sure if it would be the best idea just to go up and speak and approach their estate unannounced. But they do like to hold parties quite often." And she'll like, I suppose maybe ask Sir Alamir, since he's been in the city a little while. "Do you know when their next party may be?"
Oh, would I know that? Rad? Can
Tonight.
I just make some shit?
You're like the head of the guards, not exactly like spies. So, but I'm sure you probably keep yourself relatively well apprised. Make a intelligence check. Let's see if you see how well you've kept yourself
Are
apprised.
smart enough.
Yeah, of the goings on of other families. Okay. So yeah, you definitely like keep your ear to the ground for like rumors of what the other noble houses are doing as part of your like business. And you would know that the Roaring Horns recently, a branch of the family has arrived visiting from Cormier, and there is a celebration scheduled. You don't know the exact date, but it is soon.
I believe there's some kind of celebration scheduled rather soon. I don't know exactly when. I've only heard whisperings.
that would probably be the best time to approach the Roaring Horn Cirque. Anyone is allowed to attend, no matter their station, and no invites required.
He says, well, that is truly a most generous position, given the value of their estate. He says, were it me, I would have some issues trusting random folks off the street, but I'm sure they have their means of protecting themselves.
And she just sort of chuckles and she says, "Oh, the people of the city are not so morally corrupt that they would commit such acts when they're in someone else's house."
I look at Al Quill. I go like, really?
I look at Lucas. I'm just like, I'm just like, oh, I was just like I'm sure most folks aren't as morally corrupt. I'll say.
Yeah, Sir Alamir being like the guard, you would know like that is a blatantly false statement. But you would also know like Alexei didn't get out of the North Ward much.
She loves the city.
Yeah, obviously.
And she says, "Well, I suppose we'll need to get a date for when that's going to be happening. But we can do that a bit later, I suppose." And she'll say,
Ah,
"It's like."
Nonsense, I'll take care of it. Podrick,
Yeah, so you shout
You
out.
still have Podrick.
of course.
Yeah, and a
Did he get lost in the sewers on one of your missions a few months ago? I thought he never got out.
He came back. It's a long story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you all
Traumatized.
See, you all see like I guess describe Podrick for me. I'll let you describe him.
5'8", 5'7", a little bit rotund, yeah, youthful look, a little bit of stubble maybe. He looks like Podrick from Game of Thrones.
You lost
Sure.
a man in the sewers?
Yeah, so he comes in. He's like, my lord, you cold?
For God's sakes, Podrick, for the last time, I'm not a lord. I'm a sir. We've been over this.
Right.
Hello,
sir,
Podrick.
I can scarce tell the difference.
Okay, that's on me. I should have done a better job training you.
Alexa will give him a curtsy and it's like, "Hello, Podrick. How have you been? Have you been well?"
Yeah, he kind of just like looks over, at you, back at Sir Alamir. It's just like, yes, no, inconveniences to report.
He's got this haunted look in his eyes.
There's like
Sorry, what was the name of the family?
Roaring Horn.
Roaring Horn. Podrick, would you go out and find out when the Roaring Horns are holding their next celebration, please?
And he says, of course, I will do this immediately, sir. Sir, would you like to see if I could procure an invitation or something of the likes?
You lied out a little bit, Brad.
I said, would you like to see if I could procure an invitation or a meeting of some sort? Or do you just want to...
Oh, that's okay, Podrick. This is an open invitation to all. I'm not misunderstood.
Yeah, that is the case, right, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, like anyone's allowed in. But I mean, the Lord's probably not just gonna talk to just anybody.
Yes,
Okay.
Podrick, you could announce that the Von Bourbons are interested in coming.
Yeah, so he like nods, and says, of course.
If your friends would like to get their things into their rooms, I would like to speak to you in private, my lady.
Oh, of course. And she like turns to the rest, and it's like, the servants will make sure that you're all comfortable.
Yeah, I think like as you're saying this, one of the male servants sort of enters and says, "Milady, the rooms are ready for your acquaintances."
Wonderful. See them to them, please.
As you command. Follow me.
Like, are all the guest rooms at the same place?
Yeah, so they're all
Okay.
kind of like upstairs in the second wing of the home.
As we're walking, I'm like, like pushing into Lucas, going, so you know all those things we stole, those pictures at the Giant's place.
The statues and the art pieces, yes.
Yeah, should we sell them here?
That was the plan.
Good.
Is this weird for anyone else? I say, walking in front of them.
Weird
What is
how.
weird?
It's just like,
Sleeping in an actual bed for once?
no, not that. I do that all the time. I say, this whole
Oh.
place,
What?
the
The
stiffness of all these people.
There's
You have
probably
a lot
very
to learn.
extravagant decorations everywhere.
You have a lot to learn about the world, Alquil, other than your small little dale up north.
The Dale is very lovely, thank you.
Indeed it is, but there's a lot more in the world to see than just that.
Mm. I look over at like some of the extravagant pieces around. And like,
Probably a painting of Alexei on the wall.
ugh.
In
I'll tell
the
you what.
heroic pose.
I'll give you the tour of the town. I've been here a few times.
You know what? You know what there probably is? There's probably a painting of Alexei standing triumphantly above the Ice Witch in the Icewind Dales, and you're on the background.
I look at this piece. I'm just like,
And you
You
know
know,
she
my-
she had that commissioned.
Who has Flint and Tinder?
my opinions of Alexei have suddenly.
I pull out some charcoal and I go like, we can draw.
But no, I'll show you around town sometime, Alquil. We have to go and sell those art pieces, so I'll give
Do
you the a tour and show you the districts.
Do you know the city?
I've been here a few times,
Is there
Oh.
and we should be safe as long as we avoid the all the bad parts.
Is there like a forge here, like a proper big forge?
I don't think I could tell you that. Most of my interactions in the city didn't involve forges.
I imagine there must be forges somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean a little bit upstandard.
Well, I'm
Something,
sure there's some dwarves in a city like as big as this one. There has to be
Yeah.
some dwarven blacksmiths.
Yeah, I know there's dwarfs here. Just well, we'll have to look later.
I just remember Lucas has a -1 reputation with fucking Waterdeep.
I have negative rep with Luscombe. Is all I've read. I don't know how much reputation I have negative with it, but I have some negative reputation with Luscombe.
Maybe the interactions you've had in Waterdeep have been limited to the prison cell, Zach.
I mean, probably.
Probably.
We go by, there's a wanted poster of me on the wall, and I just rip it down. I was like, let's keep walking, guys.
As you guys are leaving, I guess since you're going to go like sell stuff, one of the servants just sort of says, "Would you like some assistance in your
Yes.
Perusing.
Yeah, I guess what the word escapes me. Oh my god.
I hate it when that happens.
Sorry, we hire
Unpacking?
very stupid servants here.
Alexei, you need better servants. No, I don't say that.
take your time, sir. That's just-
Whatever. You just asked if you want someone to join you, to like help carry things or whatever.
An escort.
Yeah.
Oh, a pack bearer?
No,
Walmart?
why would we have one of those? Occult says. Like, why would we bring somebody just to carry our stuffs? I just like,
He just
carry my own
says-
things.
He just sort of says, "Well, my lady always has an escort with her to carry her belongings." Says, "I
oh,
don't
and
think
that explains her.
since you were,
That's With one
acquaintances of
sentence, you've
hers.
suddenly explained her weak physical states.
There's probably just this like cut image of like Alexei shopping and this servant carrying crap tons of bags.
This is and if you're not from around here, things within this city, there's sort of a this is and he kind of like turns to, I guess, Alexei, you're probably like nearby at this point since you haven't like split off completely yet.
Well, she so Alamir wanted a private word, so she'd stay back with him.
Okay. So I guess he turns he says seeing as you're not from around here, perhaps it might be best. Would you like to be furnished with a copy of the Code Legal to just to browse, peruse?
I think that would be good for Alquil here. He's new here.
From the sounds of that sounds like some sort of law.
It's the laws of Waterdeep, basically. What you can and, well, what you shouldn't do.
Then yes, please. I would like to have a copy of that.
I said, of course, I will furnish you with one right away. Yeah, and he like runs off and comes back quickly with basically like this sort of like single like leaflet page with a number of sort of things written on it, and you can see there's basically like 4 headings with different types of crimes, and there's basically like a list of charges and the penalties associated with them.
I can just go and grab my Dragon Heist book, right?
Yep.
Yeah, let me just go grab mine too.
I don't have one. Can someone send me
I
a
won't.
Code Legal thing? Oh wait, actually, it's probably on the wiki, isn't it?
Maybe.
Code Legal.
Ah, here we are. Code Legal.
And yeah, I think the last thing before we sort of like wrap things up here, yeah, Alexei and Sir Alamir, you are alone in the sort of like sitting room. The rest of Alexei's companions have gone off to go to their rooms.
How does like Alexei look? Does she look like, have they had rest? Does she look
Weary from the road.
yeah, but healthy and not bleeding?
Not bleeding, no.
Okay. I'll like gesture to a chair
Of course. And she'll sit down.
and I'll sit down as well. First of all, it's wonderful to see you back and in good health.
Nod, nod.
The household has been quite worried for you,
Oh,
as
just
we
no
know
need to
what
be
kind
worried.
of perils you've decided to throw yourself into. And it is because of that your father has asked me to furthermore accompany you in your travels should you continue to walk on this path.
Oh, and she'll like nod and she say, "You wish to come with us? Perfect."
Your father does, yes.
I'm truly and thrilled that you wish to accompany us on our journey to save the world.
Yes, I'm glad you think so. So, yes, Sir Gardner will be taking over my responsibilities as head of the household guard. Meanwhile,
Of course.
and yes.
Well.
Well, if you have anything to do, now would be the time to do them.
And she like nods and says, "Of course. It'd be great to have you. Will Podrick be joining us?"
Of course, I won't go anywhere without my trusty retainer.
Podrick gets this like dread in his stomach wherever he is.
Yep. he gets a chill running through his spine about, oh, I feel something bad's just happened.
But yeah, and Alexei's like, I trust once you get to know everyone, we'll all become the best of friends."
I'm Looking forward to it, young lady. Nessa said, welcome home.
We did it, Mike. We recruited your character.
Yay. Now you just have to keep him from killing himself. Right.
All right, and I think with that, as some of you folks go to set about the city to sell appropriated goods, and the others settle down in the Von Bourbon Manor, we shall leave things off there for the time being, and then we will pick up again next week.
Woo! We've made it, guys. We're in Waterdeep.
Yay!
We did it. We're wonderful.
We have a gala to go to.
Shit's
It's
deep.
bedtime now. I'll talk to you guys later. I'm
And
tired.
Morton, you
Fair
shall
enough.
be in charge of the recap next week.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and ta-ta for now.
Ta-ta.